It's time for the package from China, but this time we're going to be having an ultimate one. Oh yeah, so let's go. Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's awesome that you're tuning in, because in this video we are going to be doing a package from China. But this is going to be one that is going to be maybe a really interesting one with the Clutch Pro from Sumo Shop. Sumo Shop is actually a tiny store that you can find some really cool, interesting products. I mean, particularly when it comes to modified or upgraded devices. And this is not something different. So first of all, I don't know if this is going to be something that we're going to be... Do not upgrade the system? Okay, I don't know if it's going to be for this product. But the point is that this is a very cool deluxe package from China, because this thing has all kinds of cool goodies, but also a very powerful device that can play almost everything and is ready to go. So let's do an unboxing. So first of all, we're getting the keychain and this very nice Sumo Shop store card. In here we're having the rubberized, ooh, I have another one, nice. So do not update system. They really want to not to update the system, and the rubberized thing that we're going to be putting around the device for extra protection. So we're having a very cool transport case. In here we're having the product itself. Ooh. All that comes in these very nice fancy sleeves. The Sumo Shop store, yeah, it's everywhere. There's nothing much, a lot of information on here. The same goes for the black box. There's just no information there. But what is going on? This particular version of the RG556 of the Andbernic is a completely modified edition, meaning that you don't need to set up anything. Everything has been done for you. But this is not like an Android with the front end. This is just a fully modded device, and that makes it a little bit more expensive than normal. But yeah, this is something you should ask yourself if it's going to be worth it, because yeah, you can tinker with Android if you really love doing that, and we can do a lot of great things. But this is something they spent countless hours to set everything up, and I mean particularly when it comes to emulator adjustment. The Andbernic RG556, or this Sumo Clutch Pro, is absolutely awesome. But let's do a little bit of overview of the menu and what is this thing all about. But let's do a little bit of an overview of the device itself. So first of all, this thing is absolutely a fingerprint nightmare. I already noticed that. If you're not going to be using the silicone, let's say, protection. The form factor is one of the, let's say, best features of the device. I find that these things are absolutely ergonomic, and we've seen it with other devices like the Odin or some POW kitties. So the RG556, that's actually the base of this device, but the way how this feels and the weight itself is quite good. Within 344 grams, this weight is exactly what I like to have. It is not too lightweight, that feels cheap, but also not too heavy, that we have seen before with some, let's say, Windows devices, but make it not really comfortable. I think this is just the right spot when it comes to how much actually something like this should weigh. It comes with a beautiful massive display, and of course a touchscreen that is not enabled, as we're going to be having the menu over here. But I love the comfortability of the device, and I think that is absolutely one of the key selling points. And of course the internal power of the device, the hardware, is powerful enough to run a lot of retro games. Of course we will face maybe a little bit of let's say, limitations, but you don't expect any PlayStation 3 emulation on this. At the top we're finding the on-off switch, and volume control, a physical volume control, and the outtake for the fan. So you can just see how crazy fingerprint nightmare this thing is. So yeah, I do not know if I'm going to be having a better option, having the translucent blue or the black version. Headphone jack out, USB-C. Over here we're having the slot for the SD card. There are actually two versions out there. This is the 1 terabyte version, and two speakers. And those speakers sound quite nice. But let's take a close look at the launcher and everything else. So first of all, this is a ready to go Android device. And as you can see over here, we're having a lot of different platforms now. A lot of stuff that we can actually play on some basic, let's say, cheaper devices. So if you want to play some Super NES, Game Boy, there are the cheaper solutions out there. I think it's going to be interesting if you're going to be playing some N64. And there are a lot of different systems like Nintendo Gamecube that there's actually nowhere to be played on those cheaper devices. DS, Wii, we think 3DS, and many other systems. And I think that's going to be really interesting. I love just the layout, how everything looks and the way everything works. However, in here we do have the Android apps. And in here we do have the option to actually get into some parts of Android. Yep, we do have the Google Play Store, so if you want to tinker and mess around with that, that is absolutely possible. But if you're going to be looking into the games itself, what they did, they scraped everything and it looks absolutely stunning with the screenshots, some information, and even sometimes how much it's played, how many players and everything else. Kind of cool. So when it comes to, let's say, the layout and how this actually works and looks, this is absolutely something they should have done in the first place. But let's take a close look at one of the lists. You can already see that we do have a preview of the game, and that has to do because everything has been scraped, including, so far I know, of the video. So if you want to play in media, you can actually do it fairly like that and just look at the games if you want to play it. If you've never seen a Resident Evil before, but I highly doubt, it's absolutely one of the ways. But there's a Soul Blade, man, that's such a cool game. But I think if you're going to be looking into a device like this with such a price point, I think what we're going to be starting off is just playing some PlayStation 2. Because this is going to be interesting. I think this is going to be one of those platforms where you're going to be considering paying so much money for a device like this. And that's what we're going to be doing and starting off with some PlayStation 2 and some more demanding emulation. But out of the box, let's start something up. So if you're going to be using this, it's going to be a plug and play situation. But let's see if the first game I'm just going to be randomly picking up is going to be booting up, where we don't see any problems whatsoever. I think they're running this through Ether SX2 emulator, but there's no bezels or whatsoever implemented because we do have a widescreen going on. So far I know there is no way of actually getting into the menu or saying I want to change this out. But so far, emulation performance of PlayStation 2 seems to be working fine. One of the things we're going to be checking out is, of course, to see if we can actually play games with this certain D-pad. Because I am a big fan of the D-pad gaming. But I must say, when it comes to the D-pad feel itself, it does have like a lot of resistance. And let's see if it's going to be any playable whatsoever. And of course, check out some emulation performance. So where I need to get used to the D-pad itself. The overall gameplay is absolutely enjoyable. But so far so good, but of course this particular game is going to be not like something is really demanding because it's a two-dimensional game. So let's move to something else. So let's move to some Midnight Club 3. And I just wanted to see how that is going to be running. And you can just see that even with three-dimensional stuff we don't have any problems whatsoever. So what you need to take consideration is that these joysticks are not similar like the original PlayStation 2, meaning is that if you're going to be playing, they are very short travel and the overall experience is going to be slightly different. You can see that I'm accidentally like bashing into a certain position there. It's going to be moving the camera. So it's just one of the things that we're going to be shutting off. And let's see, camera options, that's off, off and off. Yes, okay, that's good. And let's just play a little bit more. But so far, so good. Going back to these old school games, oh boy. But if you want to get into the menu, I did notice that I need to be... Okay, let's see if we can... Oh, there we go. So in here we can actually make a quick load, quick save, and just mess around with the controls, the settings. If you have something going on that isn't, let's say, showcasing or something is a problem, you can actually fix it there. Pressing the R button, yeah, at least I think it's an R, of the Emulation logo, and we can just easily go back to the menu itself. So that's actually how easy it is if you just want to play. So PlayStation 2, the overall list is quite big when it comes to that. But of course with a 1 terabyte drive over SD card in the inside, we do have a lot of different games. But I know for a fact always there is something that you've played back in the day that is not on here. So you should add it yourself. Super Dragon Ball Z was an interesting game. It was like a combination of Dragon Ball Z meets Street Fighter. It was an interesting one. So it's going to be a lot of fun just checking this out. Loading times are really fast. And I've been playing a couple of games, but all of them have no problem whatsoever. So with PlayStation 1 you can actually play this on many devices. However, with the cheaper devices we're going to be playing on a native resolution. Now we do have like 5 times upscaling, having 1080p rendering resolution, making this game looking really good. Where everything is going to be looking kinda, let's say, old school when you're having like the original resolution, of course. But I think this is one of the cool things I always want to check out, like how is it going on when you're going to be having a more powerful device in combination with the DuckStation emulator. We do see a little bit stuttering, so maybe we're going to be lower it to a lower setting, but so far I think this is going to be forgivable. And of course we can try different games, do a little bit of tinkering, because this particular game is going to be less demanding than having like a Bloody Roar 2, for example. You know what I can really enjoy now? The music of this game is so good, and now with the 2 speakers inside of the Sumo handheld, this is really enjoyable. So man, playing some PlayStation 1 now, and you can see the details, or at least like how not super pixelated the game looks. And of course this is going to be so much better if you're going to be playing this on a bigger screen, but you get the point. But let's see how this actually runs when a 3-dimensional game, which Tomba was absolutely a lot of fun. Of Tombi, it's called Tomba Tombi. See, and that's interesting that it also does this particular thing, that automatically shooting. And the reason why, because we had the same thing going on with the N64, but we didn't have it with Tomba. It also maybe means that why I need to do this weird thing with the button that it automatically switches away. But even if you're going to be just loading up the game through the emulator, nope, we're not going to be having better luck there. So that's quite unfortunate, so there's something wrong that we're going to be figuring out later on. But PlayStation Portable, yeah, that's another story, of course. So what is even interesting is that we can even do a little bit of an upscaling with this. Yep, I have seen some of the games even having upscaling of 2 times the resolution. So, and I think that is one of the very cool, let's say, things you can actually do with this particular device, that we do have the option to just play these games and just use higher resolutions now. With PlayStation Portable, we can press the home button getting into the menu. So in here we can mess around with stuff, and you can see that has been set to 2 times resolution. So with this particular emulator, I didn't showcase this with PlayStation 2, but let's get into the frames per second. And also there we can make a quick load, quick save. It's possible that we do need a little bit of tweaking with certain games. But you can just actually show here over here that 2 times resolution is no problem with the Wipeout game. We do have sometimes maybe a starter, but no, not here. Let's see what's going on.
Autopilot engaged. Disengaging.
So far, so good. And yeah, this is absolutely a great device to actually play some PlayStation Portable with. Ooh, oh yeah. Oh, messing that part up. Oh, just wanted to do the spin. Whoppa! Oh, you did say like the dip, but that happens a lot when a lot of stuff is going on. But yeah, this runs perfect, but at least like perfect as it can be. Let's do a quick save over here. I think it goes back to the menu or the game. You can actually load up, I think you can even load up games in here if you want to. So let's see, we're going to be choosing God of War, so we don't need to go to the main menu. So from here we can actually start it up. There's no save, so we're going to be skipping through that annoying intro. Oh, that I've watched so many times now. Oh. Time for some change of kinkiness with the God of War game. And of course our all famous benchmark. And you know, if this game runs on the 2x resolution, what is even interesting, maybe you can do a little bit more tweaking with Wipeout and other games, particularly when it comes to the two-dimensional games. But this is what you're getting out of the box. Some overall good performance. Man, this thing goes loud. That's absolutely nuts how loud this thing goes. It was not even a full. It was not even the full volume. Okay. And the next thing we're going to be doing is pressing save. Yeah. But let's start with something simple. Throughout the video already mentioned a couple of times, if you just want to play 16-bit, a device like this is going to be completely overkill. And there are so many cheaper versions out there that cost like 50 bucks. But it's just a great addition, of course, if you just want to play this, and of course more the newer systems. Such a cool thing. Come on, door punch. Bah! That is so satisfying. Again. Then you need to punch him twice. But beside that, yeah, you get the point. This runs like a charm. So let's move on to something more demanding. Let's go for the N64. Yes. Because let's see what's on here. And what can we actually play? Because we have games like Blast Corps. Ooh, that's a little bit of a bummer that they added 2 of them. Oh, seriously, 3 times. You know, that's one of the things I personally hate. Let's go with Cruise in the USA. Yeah, let's see if this thing actually boots up. Do. Ooh, get some messages. There we go. Yeah, Cruise the USA. Yeah, man, I've played this game so much. Fun fact, I rented this game a lot. I never owned it back in the day. But let's see how it's going to be playable on this or not. There's a little bit difference between the emulators with audio levels. Okay, that's the button they mapped. Okay, that's great. What the heck? Why does it automatically accelerate? What? That is weird. Why does it automatically accelerate? One thing is for sure, is like, it does work. You know, I've been seeing and playing this on many different, but that is kind of messed up. Automatic acceleration. I have no idea why it does that. Let's see if we can find some weird things. But if you're going to be playing this game, if you want to continue, I think we can actually go back into the game. Let's see if it's loaded up into that certain point. Yep. And it still automatically accelerates. We can even play this with one hand now. Woohoo! But let's move on to another game and let's see what's going on, how the emulation is. But do we still have that weird thing going on with the pressing automatically start? Whoa, this thing goes loud. Oh man, this is such a fun game. If you've never heard of this game, you should absolutely check it out. I think it was just like a problem with cruising the USA so far, but I must say that I am surprised how good this N64 runs on the device. But let's get into this, let's get into the game and let's have some fun. Some old school N64 fun. It's not the best system out there. I did have like a great time. I can still remember that I think I sold my PlayStation 1 because it broke down for an N64, but you know, I had a really great time with this. But yep, and there's a simple reason, because this is such a funny game. Snowboarding and Mario Kart. Oh crap! Oh, I messed up. I did mess up. But the point is that also the joystick seems to be working fine. Particularly when we're going to be going into the corners, and joystick is very important. Oh, that's the shoot button. But one thing I did notice with this particular list of the N64, that it is just a mess. You can see a lot of double games. Look how many perfect darks are actually on there. And that's a little bit of a bummer if you ask me. I would expect that they actually did a better job with selecting the games. And of course, let's try GoldenEye. One of the golden oldies, the GoldenEye. Let's see. So the first two games were not like super demanding. Ah, we do have the same problem. They're automatically shooting. So it's just a general problem of the emulator. The question is like, how can we actually fix something like that? That is going to be, yeah, that's kind of weird. That it had like an automatic input. It looks more like a turbo button, but not with every single game. Maybe that's because the previous game is not like using that certain button, but I didn't notice any weird things. Moving on to the Gamecube, I did notice something I do need to point out. So where it actually boot up the game without any wicked thing going on, the weird thing is, like, if you're going to be going back to the menu, or at least if you try to go back to the menu, you can see that it actually showcases this. But let's say we just booted up F-Zero GX, and we're going to be booting up now Andbernic. It will still boot up into F-Zero. And the only thing to actually shut this thing down is by holding the button over here. Then we can actually get into a new game. Alright, let's do that. But let's get into some Gamecube with the F-Zero GX. I wanted to let it run for some time to see if we're going to be getting overall good performance. Yeah, it runs a little bit slow when it comes to that. Well, let's give this thing some time to actually get it going on, and you can see it getting into the game. There we go, there we go, there we go. That seems to be, I do actually see the slowdowns. If you wonder why there is not a frame per second counter, I actually tried to get into the menu. But like with some of the other emulators, I can't get into the menu. Yeah, it's kind of annoying. But besides that point, if you just want to play some Gamecube, that seems to be working fine so far. Did have some stutters in the beginning, but through the game it's getting better and better. But if you're going to be moving back to something simple to emulate, or at least something that is less demanding, out of the box I didn't notice any stuttering or whatsoever. So another thing I did notice is that when it comes to playing these old school games, particularly when it comes to Gamecube, so yeah, there is a lot of stuff you can play, but how compatible it is, that is of course a different question. Does it actually boot up every single game? Yeah, I've been testing out a couple of them. So far it seems to be working fine. But again, it's going to be the compatibility with the game itself. I do wonder if they test it out, like every single game. We do have the same situation that we need to hold the button over here to actually close it. Because if you're not going to be doing that at all, yeah, we're going to be having the problem that if you're going to be booting up another game, it will still run, in this case, Sonic Colors. So the device of the Wii will showcase the controller, and yeah, if a game has compatibility with controls, we're going to be having the option to just play them through the Dolphin emulator, like with the normal Gamecube games. I think it's great. It's the same emulator with the Dolphin emulator. And yeah, there are many cool games on the Wii you can actually play through the device over here. However, let's see how it will run. Do we have like any dips in the beginning maybe? Yeah, in the beginning I have like a minor dip, but nothing something that we say like is going to be ruining the complete like gaming experience. But yeah, this is no problem whatsoever. The only thing I need to get used to is this freaking joystick, because it's so tiny and it is really responsive. But besides for emulation performance, yeah, it runs quite nice. So where this device is more than powerful enough is going to be the DS version of the games. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of it, with the simple reason is just if you're going to be using a DS, I think it's going to be more fun with the dual screen configuration, where we do have actually the option to play. I mean, particularly when you're going to be looking into playing this game, like Contra for example, yeah, we do have like a massive wide screen, so we can actually do in different configuration, having the screen next to each other like you have over here. I don't know if they configured it. Yeah, you can actually press the buttons, switch it. They did a great job when it comes to that. But yeah, is this the way how you want to play? So let's start up. Let's go with the arcade mode. And what you can actually do is just... Don't you hate those freaking games that you need to search for the buttons? Okay, you need to press A over here. Easy mode, yeah. But yeah, we're going to be switching between the screens like that, because we're not going to be needing the screen. Do we need it? Yeah, we do actually need it. To configure the D-pad. Oh yeah. Oh crap, I got shot. Didn't see that guy laying there. Oh, he still hit me. But you're getting the point with this particular device. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of this, but yeah, emulation of the DS is just great and it looks amazing when it comes to the single screen, but still weird that it's actually goes over there. There's something going to be happening. Oh, we can actually see that we're going to be shooting upwards. That's kind of cool. Well, it is kind of cool if you're going to be holding the button over here. We can go back pressing the R, but you can actually close the DS. So that's kind of cool. So in this menu we can just tweak and do some stuff. Let's see, we're having menu over here. Oh wait, my mistake. There we go. And this way we can just change game, but we don't need to. We're just going to be pressing the R and go back. How about 3DS? Man, it's a little bit messy. For the simple reason that my button isn't mapped. I mean, particularly when I'm going to be looking into the A, it will give me the menu. So that is not the way how we want to play, because we're going to be needing the freaking A button for just playing the games. But let's get into it. I just wanted to showcase what's going on. So there's another thing they should pick. Wait, what? Wait, what? What? Oh, we need to actually type something. Okay. That's okay. I just wanted to see what's going on. But this is of course not the way you want to play. So what you can see, we can just mess around with the different layouts, and there are absolutely many. Let's select the main character. And let's see if we can get into the game and how will it actually run. It's quite unfortunate that we do have to use the touchscreen for now. Let's see how the overall emulation performance is. So we're running on 59 frames per second.
Round one.
Whoa!
Fight.
We can't use the A, but we can use the other buttons. But yeah, that seems to be fine. If I can fix the A button situation, there is no D-pad here, so that's quite unfortunate. But 3DS is actually playable on this, so that's nice. But let's move on to the Sega stuff. And I was just scrolling through this and I thought I had a brain fart, but there is no Sega CD. Why didn't they add the Sega CD at least? Because that's such a cool... Oh man, you know, Sega CD is such a cool overall platform. Of course they included the Genesis. The other thing they should add is like an extra folder on top that says actually like custom games or homebrew games or whatever games. You know, we have all these very cool hacked versions. I love those, you know, that would be a very cool add-on. But they're not so in here so far I have seen. But yeah, of course, this runs without any problem, but I just wanted to boot it up to see. They implemented the 4:3 aspect ratio, so that's great. Let's see if we can actually do something here. Oh, there we go. Getting my ass kicked. That's interesting that the analog stick isn't configured or what? No, we can actually use the D-pad only. Okay. It's not a big problem, but it's interesting they didn't map that because normally it would be done by RetroArch manually. So Sega Dreamcast, that's going to be interesting too, because okay, we're having the 2.5 multiplier when it comes to upscaling. We're running Vulkan. That's kind of interesting. It does show us a widescreen, but the widescreen isn't enabled. Okay, but that doesn't matter. That doesn't spoil the fun. Let's see how we can get out of this freaking menu. Let's done. Resume. And let's see the overall emulation performance of this. Okay, so when actually getting into the game, then we do have like 4:3 aspect ratio, so that is correct. I was thinking like that was kind of weird. It did showcase the first beginning logo in widescreen. Loading times are absolutely amazing with these devices. But so far, emulation, no problem whatsoever. And that's kind of cool that we do have like 2.5 upscaled, where this game looks absolutely amazing. So playing Dreamcast on this, that's absolutely one of the cool benefits. So take consideration if you're going to be playing some Sega Dreamcast on some cheaper devices, they are mostly like having native resolution. But you know, that is not going to be a problem. But I think that's going to be the extra benefit of having a device that is more powerful like this, that we have like beautiful, more overall performance. In particular when it comes to, let's say, higher upscaled. I think that is, I love that upscaling part. With Dead Alive is one of those games I love to check out to see if that's going to be running perfectly. Let's just have some fun with some Hydro Thunder. It was actually one of the games I actually played, I think some time ago on the Xbox 360. It was a very cool remake. But I think trying to play more games is pointless because it seems to be running all fine. And with maybe less demanding games, you can do a little bit of tinkering. But I think if you're getting into the menu, you need to hold it, by the way. There we go. Oh, cack. No, that's not the... What I wanted to say is, like, if you're going to be messing with the upscaling, the major problem we're going to be facing is that if you're going to be doing that, yeah, if you're going to be switching out, say, like higher resolutions for certain games, yeah, you're going to be switching it out for every single one. So it's going to be an absolutely problem. House of the Dead. Why would you want to play House of the Dead on a handheld? But let's move to the Sega Saturn, because that is a system you don't see on cheaper devices. So most of the time you need to buy a little bit more expensive device like this one to actually get a good overall decent emulation performance. Die Hard Arcade is one of those games that is absolutely a lot of fun to check out. I do have with this game all the time, like, what is going on, man? Such a weird game this thing is, but it is kind of fun. The guy just shoot me like with a freaking rocket launcher. What the heck is... Yeah, this game is totally wicked, but seems to be running quite well. So that's great, because if this game runs well, many other will also have no problem whatsoever. So it's running through the Ableton Zero 2 emulator, but again, it's also a combination of like what kind of support does it actually give when it comes to the games. So we can go to the list, but I think you need to always look it up when it comes to compatibility to see which game is going to be playable with the Sega Saturn for you. We've been messing around with a lot of different kind of, let's say, devices. But I just wanted to see what happens if you're going to be booting up an Atari Jaguar game. That's another platform you don't see really often on these, let's say, devices. Let's see, how can I accelerate? Okay, so we need to play with the D-pad. So this may be the first time I've ever played this game through emulation, because most of the time with emulation it's just really horrible, the emulation performance. Do get some Street Racer vibes over here with this particular game. So yeah, that's kind of cool that we do have like all kinds of different devices now on this particular one, like having some Atari Jaguar, you know. Yeah, and there we're having so many more. So having some turbo graphics, another cool system with a lot of great games like Alien Crush, Jackie Chan, and all of them run perfectly without any problem, of course. Let's get into the game, let's see if everything has been mapped like it should be. Oh, such an interesting pinball game. They also ported it to the Sega Genesis. They also came with this rubber thingy, and I can tell you, let's slap this thing around and let's talk about it. I think it's such a cool device, and you can order it in 2 colors if you want to. I went for just the normal black version. So if you want to use, it's all filthy, wait, give me a sec. There we go. If you want to slide this thing in, let's put it in standby mode. Come on, join me. Join me how I'm going to be squeezing this thing in. Oh. Protection is important. No, I'm messing it up. Come on, come on. Ah, yeah, yes. There we go. It's on. Ah, okay. So making it even more comfortable with the extra grips over here. And one other thing is interesting. But is this for everyone? I think not. But you know, there are a lot of cool features now, so it's way easier to actually press the on and off switch over here. So we do have absolutely amazing grip. I must say I love these like rubber knobs on the bottom. We can still reach into the SD card and all the other connections, and there's a little bit over here a room for the speakers because this thing does come with stereo speakers. Let's get into the menu. Let's talk about it. So first of all, let's switch the screen. And yeah, this thing is capable of playing all kinds of different systems like Sega Saturn, Dreamcast, and I think while we have a lot of cheap devices out there, this thing has a lot of functionalities to it. So we do have like the apps browser and other applications, even Google Play Store if you want to. You can mess around with that. So the navigation, everything is just super convenient, and I think one of the better things. So yeah, playing some games, that is something we're going to be doing today, of course. And I think that is one of the reasons, if you just want to have something ready to go, you don't want to mess around too much with it. I think this is just one of those things you need to actually consider if you do want to have all of the tinkering going on. And that's how easy it actually is. So yeah, playing, I must say that I must get a little bit used to it, because with the rubber over it, you do have a little bit of depth now. But I think the rubber is going to be convenient for protecting the device. It's interesting to see how they everything configured. Let's get into the game itself. But this way we're just actually going to be having and go back into the game itself. But the conclusion about that part is that it is going to be giving you some more protection if you're going to be dropping the device itself. So yeah, it's absolutely recommended, but will give you a little bit of a playability difference. I mean, particularly when it comes to comfortability. Yeah, I love that I have like a way better way to actually touch the on and off switch and the volume and stuff like that. But you're going to be having a little bit more depth in the D-pad, and I find it less, let's say, comfortable to actually play. Sumo did something that I wish it just did in the first place when it comes to the RG556. I personally sometimes really hate it, the tinkering of the Android devices. But in this way, the configuration of the software and everything, and they did a really great job with it. So out of the box, this thing can play a lot. So it's like a full potential of the RG556, because this thing is actually it. But this is just like a very easy, you can just buy it, play it, and you're ready to go. Of course, there will always be a moment that you need to add different games because there's something missing out. But beside that, out of the box experience is quite good. Thank you all for watching, consider subscribing, and it will be great to see you in the next video.